Hey, what's going on? Eric Bach with the Eric Bach Show. And today we're going to talk about what the NFL draft can actually teach you about fat loss. Yes, what the NFL draft can teach you about fat loss. Now, as it stands right now, NFL draft coming up very soon. And the NFL draft is a time, obviously, when the NFL goes through, drafts all the top players, builds out their roster, and really sets forth what the franchise is going to look for long term. And there's a popular phrase in NFL circles, and it's the worst time to draft a quarterback is when you need one. And it's true. Look at the perennial bottom dwelling teams like the Chicago Bears. Obviously, I'm not a Bears fan. I'm a diehard Packers fan and like to have a little fun there. But literally, almost every 3 to 5 years, they trade the farm. They draft a guy like Justin Fields, Mitch Trubisky, and then they run through a new general manager every 3 to 5 years. There's a bunch of instability at the top of the franchise. And because they're always desperate for the most important thing, they never have a good long-term strategy or the key pieces around for them to actually find a sustainable long-term quarterback, which is why they haven't won a Super Bowl since 1985. Now, conversely, the best teams in the NFL, the ones that are consistently near the top, the 49ers, the Chiefs, my Packers, like they're consistent with the front office and they draft quarterbacks when they don't need them. That's the key thing. They draft players that have the biggest impact before they need them. Because they're proactive, they take time to develop their players. And as a result, they don't thrust people who are not quite ready to succeed as a quarterback and guiding an NFL franchise in because they have the tools that are around them, the skill sets and the maturity to be able to handle it. Quick example, the Packers drafted Aaron Rodgers when they had Brett Favre. And now they drafted Jordan Love while they had Aaron Rodgers. The 49ers, they went Montana, Steve Young, Jeff Garcia, had a few hiccups here and there. But even guys like Jimmy Garoppolo, they were proactive in bringing in Jimmy Garoppolo. They traded for Trey Lance. Trey Lance wasn't a great quarterback, but they also drafted Brock Purdy, who's turned out to be very good. And so when we look at that process, it's always being able to be proactive in terms of building towards the future and for the franchise before you're desperate for that actual player. Chiefs, the example there is also great. It's the Chiefs drafted Patrick Mahomes when Alex Smith was still a Pro Bowl caliber quarterback. And so here's what this actually has to do with fitness. The best NFL franchises, they're future focused and they are able to delay gratification. They don't draft for immediate need. They do not just desperately say, hey, I need to draft this position right now because it's the weakest one on our roster and I need to do, 5 draft picks and trade the whole farm in order to get that. The reality is, most rookies suck. It takes players to develop, and they're all lottery tickets. Instead of appeasing to the immediate desires of the fan bases, they play the long game. They have a process, and they trust the process, and they stay consistent with it. And the same mindset is absolutely crucial when it comes to fitness. So the best strategy, and the way that we need to think about this is if you want to be able to get and to stay lean, the best strategy is to avoid gaining a ton of weight in the first place. The best strategy for optimal health is to avoid major health issues by being proactive with your workouts, with your nutrition, and with your lifestyle when you're young and when you are healthy. Right now, we're coming up on late spring, early summer, and we're getting to a time period where a lot of people are looking ahead and they're like, you know what? Yeah, summer's coming. I'm going to back off. I'm not going to work out quite as much. And here's what I typically see. People will work their ass off to lose weight, to build muscle, to get into good shape. And then when the summer comes around, because they have this all or nothing mindset and they're not really proactive long-term about it, they pull off the throttle so much that they end up gaining a bunch of weight back. The reality is about 90% of people who lose 10% of their body weight, so I think 20 pounds for a 200-pound person, gain it back. And the reason is they don't have that long-term view. They don't have that sustainability view or that sustainability focus that needs to be present. And much like drafting a team with the key pillars in the most important positions and being proactive and giving it time to work and staying consistent with that process, that's how we have to approach fitness. It's not something it's all in or all out. It's being able to have a process and stay consistent. And sometimes we don't have to be as aggressive in pursuing these things, such as maybe summer when life gets a little bit busy, but we have to stay consistent and continue to make headway towards the things that mean the most. And so where a lot of people get stuck is they fall into the habit of saying something like, now's not a good time. I'm going to focus on my health when life slows down. Or specifically with men, they think, hey, I'm an average guy. There's nothing wrong here. I'm just kind of going about it, despite feeling like a shell of who they could be, despite gradually falling further and further away from meeting their potential, from having less confidence, less energy, having a shitty lipid profile, from having low testosterone, all of these things that lead them to not be able to perform their best until they finally get to the point where their doctor says, hey, if you don't lose this weight, we're going to put you on cholesterol meds and you're going to be looking at an early death. Unfortunately, a lot of times men are not problem aware until something smacks them in the face and it's such a bleeding neck problem that they have to completely revolutionize their life in order to get back on track. And so, like the NFL draft, the best approach to getting lean, to getting healthy, and staying jacked is to be proactive, to be able to set up the systems where you're staying consistent and being proactive towards the future versus having to do something dramatically right now out of an immediate need. When you do this, this is how you prevent weight gain. It's how you prevent poor health. It's how you prevent brain fog and generally feeling disgusted with yourself when you look in the mirror or the progress that you're making because you're not reaching your expectations, rather than being reactive once you go to the doctor and you get a bad report. So my challenge to you is this. You can either make the uncomfortable choice of acting in advance before you need to, of being proactive with your training, being proactive with your nutrition, doing the things that are going to support a healthy long-term lifestyle now, or you end up having to be reactive later when all these issues are thrust upon you and you have to make some dramatic life-changing decisions or suffer the consequences. So that's a wrap for today. Hopefully you got a little bit of insight there, but the biggest takeaway here is you have to be proactive with what you're doing with your health, because once you get strong, once you get leaner, it's exponentially easier to maintain these habits and these behaviors in order to look, feel, and perform your best. And if you wait too long, it just gets harder and harder and harder to get into shape. And then you start doing it out of desperate need, much like the Chicago Bears, who cannot seem to find a quarterback every single year. All right, so if you got some value from this, hey, drop me a 5-star review, leave me a comment, because your support, your willingness, and ability to share this is how we keep it ad-free and continue growing, helping you look great naked without living in the gym. And remember, success comes down to the ruthless execution of the basics. When you dial those things in, fitness is going to be a force multiplier in every other area of your life. Hey, that's a wrap. Have a great day. Did you find this helpful? If so, pound that like button and hit subscribe. Now, if you want a free copy of our Chiseled Muscle Cheat Sheet, the no BS way to help you lose body fat and build lean muscle in 90 days, make sure that you go to the description below and download your free copy. Any questions? Drop them in the comments, and can't wait to see you with the next video.